Chuck Cooperstein, radio voice of the MAVS. How are you feeling today, Chuck?
I'm good. I think I'm in better shape right now than my team is in shape. My team is struggling right now.
They are. They're a little banged up as well, but I do want to take it back a little bit before we move forward. Jason Kidd has a pretty big sample size as of this point, right? I mean, he took them to the Western Conference Finals last year. How would you describe the differences in style of play when we're talking about Rick and we're talking about Jason?
I don't know that it is decidedly different because of the presence of Luka. Luka is going to play how Luka is going to play. I do. It is interesting to me that I think Jason came in certainly last year with a defensive mindset uh, and having everybody buy into it to the point where they were an elite defense by the end of the year until Golden State took them apart in the Western Conference Finals. Rick early in his time in Dallas was very defensive oriented and has always preached the notion of defense, and yet it always seemed as if when there was a choice to be made between offense and defense, he always went with offense. And again, some of it may be because of the personnel that was on hand. Some of it may have been philosophical. I don't know the real answer to that, but I think that just in many ways they're very similar, though, Andrew. I think they are old souls. I mean, Jason really is an old soul. I mean, Rick can be a bit more prickly in how he addresses players and how he addresses the media in general, and Jason is much more passive aggressive. A lot of times velvet glove over the iron fist to try to get the point across. But look, I look at what Jason did last year and know that he's certainly a capable head coach in this league. There are a lot of Maverick fans right now who beg to differ with that, given what's happened with the team this year. But I think he's pretty much done what he can do with the personnel that he has. I think it's defensively anyway. I think offensively they're terrific. I think in many ways I think Jason's probably bought in even more to Rick's philosophy of, hey, let's launch as many threes as possible and buy into the whole analytics bit of threes are better than twos. But of course, twos are better than none. And to the point where the Mavericks are second or third in the league in 3-pointers attempted. And really their entire game is based on if they make threes, there's a pretty good chance they're going to win. And if they don't make them, they absolutely will not win.
Yeah. So, I mean, to your point, you said he has a defensive mindset, and I think he still does. He just doesn't have the roster for it at this point.
But you know what, Andrew? The roster is not too dissimilar. Again, before the trade. Now we're talking before the Kyrie trade. The roster was not too dissimilar to what he had going into last year and going into the playoffs. I mean, he doesn't have.
I like Finney a lot.
Well, Finney Smith is terrific, but again,
Yeah.
I'm talking about before the trade. Before the trade.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, Dorian is a terrific defender, can defend 4 positions.
Right.
There are very few players who can do that. And when he makes threes at the clip that he, has made them throughout his career, although his shooting this year is a little down, I mean, he becomes a real weapon for you. But they at the beginning, the only real change was they didn't have Jalen Brunson, who was not a great defender, but who knew how to draw charges, and could and wasn't totally lost out there on the floor defensively. And they added Christian Wood. I mean, really, that's the only significant changes to their roster, that they made. They even got Josh Green, a terrific athlete, and a guy who certainly has been able to make things happen just because he always plays like his hair's on fire. Gets a whole bunch of 50-50 balls and is willing to guard, and yet it has just not happened. And they're paying a pretty significant price for it right now.
So, what are your thoughts on the Kai and Luka experiment so far? They're banged up. It's a small sample size still, but what do you make of it?
I mean, offensively, it's been awesome. Absolutely awesome. Everything that you would have thought that it would be, maybe even more. I mean, they've only played what, 7 games together or 8 games together. Like what, in 3 of them, they both have had 30 points in both of those games. One of them missed by 1. The Philly game was incredible. I mean, when they both went for 40.
Right.
Great players know how to play with one another, and especially if they want to make it work. So from that standpoint, it's been great. What has been, I guess, a little frustrating has been the Mavericks have played any number of close games of late, and they've not won very many of them. And there's been at times indecision between the two of, okay, what are we going to do? Who's going to get the shot here at the end of the game? Now, the last 2 times that they had a chance for it, against Phoenix, listen, Luka had a layup. Luka got the best shot in a late game situation he's had all year long, and he missed that shot. And then the next game against Indiana, they ran a really nice play for Kyrie. It was well defended by T.J. McConnell, but certainly it's a shot that Kyrie can make, but he didn't make it. And the Mavericks have just been completely snake bit this year by playing in so many close games, so many late game situations, and really hitting no shots of consequence inside the last 5 seconds of any game this year.
So Kyrie's not going to let you know if he's staying or leaving. What would that mean for the Mavs if he does decide to leave?
It would be devastating. How could it not be devastating if you basically gave up 2 rotation players, 2 really good players, by the way? And I think we're seeing, again, Dinwiddie in a larger role in Brooklyn, again, showing what he was capable of prior to the knee injury a couple of years ago. He's been excellent. And he had an excellent year here with the Mavericks, to the point where, people saying, well, they didn't replace Brunson. Well, they really did replace Brunson in many ways with Dinwiddie. Now, Dinwiddie was different than Brunson. He doesn't post up like Brunson does. But if you look at his scoring, the efficiency with which he scored, the assists, the fact that when Luka has been out of the lineup, that he's basically taken over that scoring role, he was great. Okay, they didn't replace Spencer Dinwiddie. That's who they didn't replace when Jalen Brunson went to New York. And they still have not replaced that player. And that's something for them to consider going forward. And obviously, we talked about Finney Smith and what he means. So you gave up those 2 players. You gave up a future first-round pick. And granted, that guy might be just 13 years old right now, but he's going to be playing in the NBA at some point. The pick's in 2029 for a player who was with you for 2 months, and you didn't achieve very much in that 2 months. You went all in, you pushed it all in, and you kind of had to do it in order to show Luka that you are completely committed to winning so that you keep him here as long as possible. But to make the trade, not have it work out on the floor, and then not have it work out in the summertime would be nothing short of devastating.
Yeah, I mean, the Mavs been shaking and moving. They were trying things like, they signed Kemba for a little bit. Like, they were trying to fill that void when it came to Jalen. And Spencer was great. You mentioned Jalen, and from your point of view, how big of a mistake was it that they didn't pay him?
I mean, it's pretty inarguable, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was great all season. He was great in the playoffs. And he had the ability, the known ability to the Mavericks of playing off of Luka and playing well off of Luka. Because, again, in this heliocentric world in which the Mavericks operate, you have to be able to play off him. And Jalen knew how to do that and do it effectively. And Jalen, maybe even more importantly, off the floor, is so steady. He's so professional. There's no drama with him at all. He's the best guy. Everybody loves him. That dude has won wherever he has played. You're seeing it in New York this year. And I think that is an intangible that was very much lost by the team when they lost him.
I actually think it was great for Jalen, right? I mean, Julius Randle is there, but he is the guy in a lot of ways.
Well, I mean, look, it was an interesting choice for Jalen. I mean, take the money out of it for a second. He had the choice of either moving to run his own team, because he was not going to run the team in Dallas, or being a second guy to arguably the best player he'll ever play with in Doncic, and a team that was on the cusp of winning. I mean, literally was on the cusp. They got to the Western Conference Finals. And who's to say that they wouldn't have been able to get back there again this year had he stayed? But the Mavericks, elected not to extend him when they had the chance to extend him. And then, you get to free agency. Anything can happen in free agency, and it often does. And in the Mavericks case in free agency, in their history, free agency has not been particularly kind to them, and it was not kind here.
So my apologies. I keep looking at hindsight. So let's look forward now. Let's look forward because, the Mavs are eighth. And in most situations, like let's say they lock up that eighth spot. I mean, that's not a guarantee. But in most years, you have no chance as the eighth seed, right? But I do think this is a year where the Western Conference is wide open. Does that give you some optimism when it comes to this basketball team?
Tell me they're going to play some defense. They've got to be able to play some defense. Now, the last couple of games, they've not even, and granted, Luka got hurt and was playing hurt in New Orleans, and he didn't play on Saturday night in Memphis. But when he doesn't play, they don't score. And they're scoring under 110 points. And in the NBA, if you're not scoring at least 110, you have absolutely no chance of winning. So as long as he's there and Kyrie is there, they have plenty of offensive firepower to be able to make life miserable for whoever they play. The question is, are they going to be able to guard well enough to allow that offense to be able to take advantage of? So, I mean, the short answer is yes. Of course, they have a chance. And, only there haven't been very many 8 seeds that have won since they've gone to 8 seeds. And no 8 seed has won in a 7-game series. You have to go back to Seattle beating Denver in '94 to find the last time that happened.
Oh, hopefully for Denver, it doesn't happen again, right?
Well, right, exactly. And the Mavericks actually, when healthy, do play Denver really well and have played them really well. And Denver, as good as Jokic is, in fact, as great as Jokic is, there's something that's not quite right with them. And even as
really, why do you say that?
Even as they have cruised through the season and at the top of the West, can you really count on Michael Porter? And he's going through a thing right now. Apparently, he ripped Michael Malone last night for not playing very much in the second half. You had the Bones Highland situation, right? And and they dumped him. I mean, they've had a fairly tumultuous off the floor experience for a first time on the rise team to the top of the conference. Obviously, they've been good for a while here, but the Mavericks know how to play them. They know how to, if not stop Jokic, at least kind of make him work for whatever it is he has to work for. So if they were playing Denver in the first round, I mean, I think they'd have a chance. I think if they were playing Memphis, I mean, as a 7 seed, I mean, they'd have a chance. But look, I mean, we're talking about looking forward to the playoffs. They have to qualify for the playoffs. Okay, they'd be in a play-in game against Minnesota right now. They lost 2 out of 3 to Minnesota. The Lakers, even though they lost to the Knicks last night, the Lakers are coming on. And they're going to get LeBron back at some point here before the end of the year. Anthony Davis is playing like an MVP. The trades have worked out really well for them. You got to worry about them. Frankly, I'd be worried about Oklahoma City. I mean, Oklahoma City is they are a pain in the butt, and they won't go away. And so, there is nothing at all guaranteed in any of these games other than the fact that the games are likely to be late fourth quarter games. Can you win in the clutch? And right now, the Mavericks are struggling to figure that out. If whoever figures that out best is probably going to be doing some damage in the Western Conference playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the Mavericks, what's working for them in their favor is that there's no like prime Spurs team or prime Warriors team, that
Right.
73 win team. Like, it's wide open, and that gives teams like the Mavs a chance.
Well, again, last year, the Suns were 8 games better than everybody else in the Western Conference. They had one of the great regular season margins of all time. And I believe when the Mavericks beat them, it was the first time in 20 years that a team that had at least an 8-game margin on its opponent in the playoffs did not win that series. So it's, you're not going to have anything like that in all likelihood this year. But, you're right. Everybody is flawed. Like everybody's because everybody is flawed, everybody has a chance, which will make it really fun. I think certainly at least through the Western Conference phase of things, and certainly through the last 14 games of the regular season. But if you're looking at the bigger picture and you're seeing Milwaukee and Boston and Philadelphia, I mean, those teams really do seem to be a cut above everybody else.
You've been calling games a long time, been in the business a long time, and it's more parity now in the Western Conference. Do you like it more, and do you think it's better for the league when there's parity, or there's a so-called super team?
Well, fans say they want parity, but they don't really believe it. Fans want dynasties. They want to follow great teams, root for great teams, or root against great teams, and hope for failure. By that great team. I don't think they're necessarily a fan of parity, but I mean, if you're working every night in the league, you love parity because at least from my standpoint, that with 5 minutes to go, you're probably going to have a pretty good game. And that's all I'm really ever asking for is I want a great game with 5 minutes to go. Give me some big moments and big shots and big blocks and stops and things like that. And I'm a happy camper. And I think the league and certainly governorship of the league wants to see that, just to be able to put out. Certainly, look at the Western Conference. Everybody's got a chance. Everybody's got and the play-in has certainly helped in that regard too, because it has kept teams playing that otherwise would not be playing and would be trying to be tanking for ping pong balls and brick for Vic and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. What teams do you feel are legit title contenders in the West? I actually heard you say on a radio show that you didn't feel the Warriors. You could correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think they are.
So
tell me first off when they're going to win on the road.
Yeah, it's been terrible. It's been terrible.
This is a team that has had at least one road win in 27 consecutive playoff series, which is absolutely remarkable. But they've always had home court advantage. At least for the most part, they've had home court advantage, right? They didn't have it against Boston last year, but they were still able to win. But for the most part, they've had that. When the Warriors have been great, it is because their defense has been absolutely elite and top five, whether in defensive rating and any of the other measurables you want to go to. They have to be that good because their offense is going to put them in peril. Their offense turns it over so much, creates other opportunities for opponents that if they were not good defensively, they'd be getting beat. Well, this year, a little bit of age, a little bit of injury. You've got Wiggins out here for a long time here because of personal reasons, and Curry's been out a long time. Thompson has been, doesn't play on the second night of back-to-backs. Draymond's been hurt. I mean,
the young guys aren't contributing.
The young guys aren't playing. The young guys aren't very good defensively. Yeah. So, and Iguodala is too old to play. Now, they may break him out for the playoffs, but they're not good defensively. And, I just can't see it with them. And I mean, Curry and Thompson can be incandescent and make threes on top of threes, and it's incredible to watch. But in the end, they have always won because of their defense, and they don't have defense this year.
Mavericks going forward. Let's end with this. I don't think personally it's championship or bust. Luka's young. The defense isn't really there. But what would a successful season look like to you? What's the least they have to do for the season to be successful in the playoffs?
I think you have to win a playoff round. You have to at least get to the second round of the playoffs. I mean, despite what fans want and what fans believe, championships are not guaranteed.
Right. 100%. People forget this. One team wins every year.
Right. And thus 29 others fail. And the whole rings culture with ZZZ it's been among the worst things that has ever happened to NBA fandom. In my opinion, that's all that counts. There's no glory in the journey. Well, if there's no glory in the journey, then why do you buy tickets? Why do you watch on television? You want your team to win. Clearly, you want your team to win. But if they don't win, is there absolutely no enjoyment that comes with that? I mean, it's that's a pretty tough one for me to get through. But they have to. So they have to win a round. They have to find a way to win a round in the playoffs. And if they do, I think you can, because everything has been so chaotic here in the regular season that if somehow they came together and they won a playoff series, and especially now winning it as an underdog where they would not have home court advantage, I don't know how people would look at it as anything other than successful. I mean, unless you're just saying the only thing that counts is winning it all, and winning again, as you say, Andrew, only one team wins it all.
Yeah, the rings culture is crazy. I actually think Luka is the best player in the NBA. I know a lot of people don't agree with me. Most would go with maybe Giannis or Jokic or Embiid. And I feel that like he just doesn't have the team to win it all. And obviously he's very young, but I think this happens a lot when comparing players, even when it comes to the all-time history of the game. There's just some players that haven't been in a great situation to win a championship. And then we see other players who are in a great situation and they just automatically get ranked higher. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, but sometimes those great players create their own
100%. Like Michael Jordan, like that
right.
was,
Exactly. So yeah, and even to a larger degree, Larry Bird. But Larry Bird did have Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish with him, and now Red Auerbach had to trade for him, right?
Right.
He made the trades for him, but again, but Larry Bird really was the one who was the catalyst, for all of that. So. Right now the team as constituted does not look like a championship team, but they're gonna have some once they get through this summer and convey the pick to the Knicks from the Porzingis trade, and now they have a chance to throw together some multiple draft choices to trade. So that they can maybe get another player and get Kyrie signed. I mean, look, a lot of dominoes have to fall correctly for all of this to take place. And Doncic, he's phenomenal. He is phenomenal. I mean, he's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Too many technicals, way too much jabbering with the refs. Needs to be more consistent on defense.
He's young, Chuck. He's young.
Yeah. Well, no, but you know what? I don't want to use that argument that he's young. He's 24. He's been in the league 5 years now. He's been a professional since he was 14 years old, playing in Madrid against players that were older than him and certainly more mature than him. He's played at a high level for a long time, and so I think at some point it's got to kick in. Otherwise, he looks like Rick Barry or he looks like Tim Duncan. Guys who never believed they ever committed a foul in their life, or always believed that they were fouled. Or in like Shaq, who never got a call, was probably the hardest person ever to defend. But Luka averages 11 free throws attempted per game. I mean, seriously, it's not like he's not getting whistles. Well, you know what? Shoot better than 73% from the foul line. Yeah. Shoot 80%. We know he's capable of it. We know he's incredibly streaky from the line. He's incredibly streaky as a three-point shooter. And so there are consistency issues that I think that can be addressed.
Yeah. Those are fixable issues for sure.
Right. Like if he does address them, given everything else that he has, which is just an incredible package of talent, IQ, feel, all of those things. I mean, you probably are looking at the best player in the world. So he's on the cusp of it for sure. But there are, as I say, there are things that he can definitely work at that also, as a result, widen his opportunity to win championships.
Yeah. I mean, look, even contrary to my own point, it's all about the championships, right? It is rings culture. For him to be considered an all-time great, he's going to have to win championships.
Well, look, I hate to say that. Dirk finally got here in his 13th year. It took 13 years for Dirk to win. 4 first-team All-NBAs. And an MVP, and all of that happened before he won his championship, and yet somehow in his 13, it was almost like he was an overnight sensation, right?
Right, but he was always good, right? Like
he wasn't just always good. He was great. Right, he was great. Right. But again, people don't see the macro. They're only looking at the micro of those few playoff games and determining, whether or not a guy can play. And it's not, say, for instance, like a guy like James Harden, who has been phenomenal in the regular season, scoring titles, MVP, first team All-NBA, that kind of stuff. But again, look at what he does in the playoffs, and especially in closing games in the playoffs when there's an utter disappearance. Dirk was never like that. I mean, Dirk for a long time was one of, I think, only 4 guys to ever average 25 points and 10 rebounds in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He was great, but people didn't realize that he was great until 2011, which is inherently unfair. But I guess that's where we are right now. It's just, people don't want to take the time really to actually look.
Yeah, it was a huge legacy boost. It's almost like D-Wade's championship when he won it without LeBron. Like, that boosted his legacy when we look at his all-time career a lot, right? And it was the same for Dirk. Like, Dirk would not be looked at the same if he didn't get that championship.
I don't think there's from the general public, I would agree with you. From the basketball public, the people who are really involved in the game and watch it every night, they know.
You're right.
They know greatness when they see it.
But legacy is determined by the broader general public, right? A lot of times, not the insiders or the podcasters or the commentators or the players.
I mean, on some level, yes. But again, your legacy ultimately is determined by 18 unnamed people who vote for the Basketball Hall of Fame.
That is true. That is true.
And we don't know who they are. Or 24, I guess. 24 who vote. 18. You got to get 18 votes.
That is true. Chuck, great stuff. You're always welcome back on the show. Where can we find you on social media? Where can we find you on radio?
I am at Coop MAVS on Twitter. I don't do IG.
Okay.
I've got my own. You can find me on Facebook probably, but I don't. I do more personal stuff there than basketball stuff. Our games are like tonight against Memphis. So we'll be on Sirius on the NBA on the Sirius NBA channel. Otherwise, it's a night to night type of thing. We're on the iHeart app as the Mavericks are part of the iHeart family. So you can go to the iHeart app and pick us up there. And if you're in Dallas Fort Worth on 97.1 The Freak.
Thanks so much, Chuck. You're always welcome back on the show, and talk soon.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Take care.